guys. It's been a while, but we're going to go through John chapter 12 together as we prepare to tackle 13, 14, and 15. So, starting off with verse 1, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany. Now, 6 days, as our one and only Megan Burns pointed out, 6 is the number of man. This is Jesus' last week as a man, as he's going to be crucified this coming Friday. Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. So, in other Gospels, Jesus goes to a similar dinner at a house called, belonging to Simon the leper. Bethany could mean house of figs or house of mourning, depending on how it's translated. So there's a possibility that Bethany could be a leper colony. Don't know definitively in the text. There's a possibility it could not be. But either way, that would be just like some followers of Jesus in Mary, Martha, and Lazarus to live in a leper colony. Here a dinner, this is verse 2, was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. Nard is not native to this region. This would have come from like India, somewhere over in Asia. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Now, something that John might be referencing here is from the Midrash, the teachings of Ecclesiastes Rabbah, where he talks about the fragrance of a good oil is diffused from the bedroom to the dining hall, but a good name is diffused from one end of the world to the other. That's why in other Gospels, Jesus mentions that what she's doing here will be talked about forever. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, that's Judas Iscariot, or of Cariot, who was later to betray him, objected, "Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages," or 300 denarii. Here John interjects with a little bit of just John stuff. He says, he did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. Jesus replied, "Leave her alone. It was intended that she would save this perfume for the day of my burial." This is probably Mary's wedding dowry that she's putting on Jesus' feet right now. "You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me." Verse 9, meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews, Judeans, people from Jerusalem, found out that Jesus was there and came, not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he raised from the dead. So the chief priests, Sadducees, made plans to kill Lazarus as well, for on account of him, many of the Jews, Judeans, were going over to Jesus and believing in him. All right, here we go, y'all. The next day, the great crowd that had come for the festival, heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. So these are people not in Jerusalem, right? These are people from the Galilee, people from around that area that are coming down here. Or up there. You always go up to Jerusalem because it's on a hill, but it is southern. They took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! Hosanna! Hosanna. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel." Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, as it is written, "Do not be afraid, daughter Zion. See, your king is coming seated on a donkey colt." Now, where is it written? It's written in Zechariah 9. And why is this important? Why are they... Because we've talked about this in chapter 7, right? That at the Festival of Tabernacles, the Festival of Sukkot, is when you take the palm branches and you wave them and you shout, "Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna. God save us, God save us," right? It's a water festival. But we were just told in the beginning of this chapter that this is not the time for Sukkot. This is the time of Passover. Completely different. So why are they doing Sukkot rituals the week of Passover while Jesus is riding into Jerusalem as king? It's because of Zechariah chapter 9. So let's read a little bit of Zechariah 9. So the thing that we just read is from chapter 9, verse 9. "Rejoice greatly, daughter Zion. Shout, daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of the donkey. I will take away the chariots from Ephraim," that's the kingdom in the north, "and the war horses from Jerusalem," that's the kingdom in the south. "And the battle bow will be broken. He will proclaim peace to the nations. Peace to the nations. His rule will extend from sea to sea and from the river, that is the Euphrates, to the ends of the earth. As for you, because of the blood of my covenant with you, I will free your prisoners from the waterless pit. So, that explains the king part. Notice how much it talks about he's coming to take away the chariots of Ephraim, which means Israel, and the war horses from Jerusalem, which is Judah. And he will proclaim peace to the nations. Peace to the nations, right? Well, if we keep going in Zechariah to the very last passage of Zechariah, which is Zechariah chapter 14, verse 16, says, Then the survivors from all the nations that have attacked Jerusalem will go up year after year to worship the King, the Lord Almighty, and to celebrate the festival of tabernacles, Sukkot. If any of the people of the earth do not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord Almighty, they will have no rain. If the Egyptian people do not go up to take part, they'll have no rain. The Lord will bring on them a plague. All the nations of the earth will stream up to Jerusalem to celebrate Sukkot, Festival of Tabernacles. But there's one problem here, and that's the waving of the palm fronds, right? This isn't shaking the palm fronds to make the rain noise like we talked about in Sukkot. Hoshana, Hoshana, shh, right? This is waving them in the air like this, which is victory, right? It's like on D-Day when everyone was holding up this for victory, right? It also, not too long after this, it becomes a crucifiable offense to wave a palm frond like that in Jerusalem, because that's what the zealots would use. It's a sign of military victory, a sign of reclaiming their land from the Romans. So Jesus is coming into the city as the Prince of Peace, right? We even read it in the prophecy about him bringing peace. But peace not with a sword, peace humble and lowly, riding on a donkey. Peace that's not saying I'm coming to take the kingdom by force. It's saying I'm going to give myself up so that this kingdom will come, right? At the same time, maybe the same day, we can't tell for sure, but Jesus in Bethany comes down from the Mount of Olives through the Kidron Valley riding on the donkey, coming to Jerusalem. There's another character that we haven't met yet in the story, but who we will meet very soon. His name is Pilate. He's the governor of this region. Pilate was kind of like a bulldog. There was one of the Herods was running the region. He wasn't doing a great job, so when, I can't remember if he was assassinated, if they moved him somewhere else, but instead of replacing him with another member of the royal family, they sent Pilate to take care of things, because Pilate was ruthless, and Pilate used force. Pilate did not live in Jerusalem. Pilate lived in a place called Caesarea Maritime, a much more Greco-Roman place. He would have a palace down there at the seaside. So imagine, if you will with me, Jesus, the Prince of Peace, the King of the universe, lowly and humble, riding on a donkey in from the east, while from the west, Pilate is coming from Caesarea Maritime on a white horse with Roman centurions, and they're blowing trumpets, and they're proclaiming that Pilate is here. Pilate, the great military general. Pilate, the one who crushes rebellions. Pilate, who's only here in Jerusalem right now because so many Jews are in Jerusalem at this moment. Empire, shalom. Both coming into the city on separate sides, and in just a few days, meeting in the middle. This is why Jesus is weeping on his way into Jerusalem, not because he knows he has to die, not because he knows that he's going to be face to face with Pilate, not because he knows that these people standing around him will be shouting, "Crucify him," in just 5 days, but because they don't get it. That Jesus is not here to kill Pilate and take back the land. He is here to kill sin and death and the grave, and to take us back from the enemy. They don't get it. And that's why Jerusalem will be destroyed within 100 years of this. Because they don't understand. And they have chosen might over peace. They have chosen blood over sacrifice. They have chosen war over peace. But I digress. Verse 16. At first his disciples did not understand all this. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things had been written about him and that these things had been done to him. Now the crowd that was with him when he called Lazarus from the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to spread the word. Many people, because they had heard that he had performed this sign, went out to meet him. So the Pharisees said to one another, "See, this is getting us nowhere. Look at how the whole world has gone after him." Now there were some Greeks among those who went up to worship at the festival. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, with a request. "Sir," they said, "we would like to see Jesus." Philip went to tell Andrew. Andrew and Philip in turn told Jesus. And Jesus replied, and watch this, Jesus replied, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." There it is, guys. We have moved from the book of signs to the book of hours, the book of glory. "Very truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Anyone who loves their life will lose it, while anyone who serves me, who hates their life in this world, will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, my servant also will be. My Father will honor the one who serves me. Now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it was for this very reason I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name." Then a voice came from heaven, "I have glorified it, and will glorify it again." The crowd that was there and heard it said it had thundered. Others said that an angel had spoken to him. This is the same word as used at the voice of Sinai, this thundered. It's the same way they described God talking on Mount Sinai. Then, yes, Jesus said, "This voice was for your benefit, not mine. Now is the time for judgment on this world. Now the prince of this world will be driven out. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." He said this to show the kind of death he was going to die. The crowd spoke up, "We have heard from the law that Messiah will remain forever. So how can you say the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man?" Then Jesus told them, "You are going to have the light just a little while longer. Walk while you have the light before darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the dark does not know where they are going. Believe in the light while you have the light, so that you may become children of the light." When he finished speaking, Jesus left and hid himself from them. So, when they talk about Messiah reigning forever, what they are probably referencing is Psalm 89. Let's flip there and read Psalm 89 together. This is starting in verse 34. "I will not violate my covenant or alter what my lips have uttered. Once for all have sworn by my holiness, and I will not lie to David, that his line will continue forever, and his throne endure before me." Now watch this. "And his line endure before me like the sun. It will establish forever like the moon, the faithful witness in the sky." If you go on to read, it says, "But you have rejected, you have spurned, you have been very angry with your anointed one," which is Messiah. "You have renounced the covenant with your servant and have defiled his crown in the dust. You have broken through all his walls and reduced his strongholds to ruin. All who pass by have plundered him. He has become the scorn of his neighbors. You have exalted the right hand of his foes. You have made all his enemies rejoice. Indeed, you have turned back the edge of his sword and have not supported him in battle. You've put an end to his splendor and cast his throne to the ground. You have cut short the days of his youth. You have covered him with a mantle of shame." Sounds familiar to what they're going to be doing in just a few short chapters, doesn't it? Notice how Jesus sees what they're quoting here and then immediately starts talking about walking in the light while you can. Just like that Solomon was referencing the sun and the moon. Starting in verse 36, believe in the light while you have the light, so that you may become children of light. When he had finished speaking, Jesus left and hid himself from them. Even after Jesus had performed so many signs in their presence, they still would not believe in him. This was to fulfill the word of Isaiah the prophet. Lord, who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? And then John comes in again. For this reason they could not believe, because as Isaiah says elsewhere, he has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, so they can neither see with their eyes nor understand with their hearts, nor turn, and I would heal them. John comes back in here and says, Isaiah said this because he saw Jesus' glory and spoke about him. Yet at the same time, many even among the leaders believed in him, but because of the Pharisees, they would not openly acknowledge their faith for fear that they would be put out of the synagogue. For they loved human praise more than the praise from God. It's verse 43 of chapter 12. I want you to think hard about that one. That they loved, these are the people who work in the temple, the religious leaders of the day. They loved human praise more than the praise of God. Why all this reference to Isaiah? Isaiah has the suffering servant discourse. Let's just let Jesus expound on it in verse 44. Then Jesus cried out, whoever believes in me does not believe in me only, but in the one who sent me. The one who looks at me is seeing the one who sent me. I have come into this world as light, so that no one who believes in me should stay in darkness. If anyone hears my words but does not keep them, I do not judge that person. For I do not come to judge the world, but to save the world. This is John 3:17 all over again. There is a judge for the one who rejects me and does not accept my words. The very words I have spoken will condemn them at that last day. For I did not speak on my own, but the Father who sent me commanded me to say all that I have spoken. I know that his command leads to eternal life, so whatever I say is just what the Father has told me to say. Now, suffering servant discourse. I feel like this gets misconstrued because there's this false idea that Jesus has come to save us from our suffering, from our hardship. Jesus has come to save us from sin, hell, death, and the grave. The suffering servant discourse is about Jesus. It's also about Jerusalem. Moreover, Jesus comes to earth and lives a perfect life, not just so he could go to the cross and eliminate our sin debt, but to model what a Christian life looks like. To live the Torah out completely. To show us what it means to follow Jesus. This is a key thing with a rabbi. The rabbi sets out to replicate himself. To teach others to do the things that he does. To teach others the teachings he knows so they can pass them on and keep replicating. Jesus came to show us how to suffer well. In this world, we will have trouble. This is Jesus talking. In the world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So when you suffer, you are like Jesus. Do not neglect to seek him in the suffering, to seek his face, and to see what he did when he was faced with hard things. So, be blessed. This is a longer episode. I'm so sorry about that, but I'm so excited to talk about John 13 with y'all next time. So, peace be with you. Thank you.